Now, when the project is over, I can tell that project implementation was an unforgettable experience for all of us. We met a lot of interesting people, enjoyed many exciting meetings here in Lithuania and in Norway, and spent long hours on project preparation and on its management. And I want to thank our project team for all the job done.
The project began in January in Vilnius, but even before then a lot of preparation was done. The history of European Women Management Development Lithuanian chapter began in 2002, when European Women Management Development International expanded its activities to Eastern Europe. Not long afterwards, a number of EWMD members from Western countries paid their first visits to Lithuania to the annual general meeting which took place in Vilnius under the patronage of Kazimiera Prunskienė, Minister of Agriculture of Lithuania in 2006. Our attention was drawn to Scandinavian region, widely known for being advanced in women's rights. The idea of a joint Lithuanian-Norwegian project was born, having defined the proper partners in 2009. With the encouragement of the EWMD International Board, the project application was submitted and later approved by European Economic Area and Norwegian funds. We concentrated on the project implementation, but unexpectedly during the whole 10-month project, the paperwork became a serious time-consuming challenge. The project implementation began from strategic planning seminar in January. EWMD Lithuanian chapter got together to analyze the organization's vision and mission, our own capacities and skills. The fact that all our members had higher education was considered a strong point. Moreover, Gražina Mongirdienė and university lecturer Dr. Zina Ginetienė were experienced in training. Thus, we were able to cope with the bulk of the work. Not to be overlooked, our team was reinforced by strong project partners, the ombudsperson Aušrinė Burniekienė and Norwegian consultants in Bergen. EWMD Lithuanian chapter members actively participated in all fields of activity. The first destination in the project was our study trip to Bergen, Norway. 7 out of 10 members of our EWMD chapter took part in this trip. The 8th person from Lithuania was the ombudsperson Aušrinė Burniekienė. The 3-day visit included seminars and meetings with the representatives from local municipalities, women in NGOs, and business leaders in Bergen. We received the latest information on the Norwegian experience. Science and business professionals shared their knowledge on female leadership and gender balance. During the site visit to the Janus Fabriken company near Bergen, we were shown around by a Sunniva Prize winner Vice President Janne Vangen Solheim. We were impressed not so much by the modern facilities of the textile factory, but more by her success story. This modest and gentle family woman proved to be an excellent manager, able to modify management's attitude towards employees that resulted in considerable profit growth and eventually earning a leading position in European textiles. She was unanimously invited to speak at the Vilnius conference, together with the project partners Lilian Hoivang Andresen and Kjersti Haukeland, who gave us valuable insights. The solution of many social and economical problems by introducing gender quotas in both governmental and business structures seemed new to us, an innovative and creative approach. Back home in Vilnius, with all the information, we started preparations for roundtable discussions to be held in 3 counties of Lithuania. The discussion results were to be the basis for an explorative study which was named as one of the key project activities. That is why a questionnaire was designed aiming to define the female position in the labor market, their participation in the decision-making process and obstacles preventing this, equal gender opportunities with regard to family policy, and all this taking into account the advice of our Norwegian consultants. The questionnaire consisted of 33 questions. It was elaborated by EWMD member, social science Dr. Zinagini Tiene, in collaboration with her university colleagues, who at the final stage also assisted in processing the explorative study. The goal of this research was to clarify the attitude of local self-government, NGO, and business representatives. The gender balance seeking a career in business and politics was held in Vilnius. Next, in the western part of the country in Kretinga, and finally in Kaunas, the second largest city of Lithuania. It was assumed that the situation in regions might differ to some extent, and this reflected in discussions and in the responses to the questionnaires. Practical details and promotional aspects were considered while producing the event participants' folder. Pens, envelopes, notepads were made with the EWMD logo and contained project sponsors' signs. Those who attended the event were presented a specially produced certificate. Participants from local municipalities, NGOs and businesses eagerly worked in groups, referring to various cases of inequality from their experience and discussing female leadership and other gender mainstreaming aspects that they faced in their career and in professional development. The problem of the female role in family and the family role in community was emphasized. The discussions showed the variety of views and differences comparing urban and village experiences. In Kretinga, male participation in the roundtable discussion held by EWMD Lithuania was more active. It was acknowledged that there was a considerable gap between male and female prospects, as well as their wages in a professional career, and gender imbalance in general was noticeable. The absence of a flexible social policy system, the lack of childcare services, stereotyping of the woman's role in the family also prevented proper female integration into the labor market. The questionnaires revealed that due to a lack of self-confidence, women more often were inclined to underestimate themselves. Roundtable discussions were intensively conducted within 2 weeks, and soon we got a wide range of views and opinions, and in total 159 questionnaires were carefully filled out. All answers received were processed using statistical analysis. The report on the explorative study, The Gender Balance Seeking Career in Business and Politics, was printed in a brochure and included in a participant's kit for the final conference in Vilnius. The publication also contained a summary of information on the 13 conference speakers who obviously were coming from 5 countries, thus bringing their experience from Norway, Portugal, Sweden, USA, and Lithuania, which made the event really multicultural. The conference took place at the end of May at the Old Vilnius University. It was opened with a welcome speech by one of the most prominent female figures of Lithuania, Mrs. Rasa Juknevičienė, Minister of National Defense of the Republic of Lithuania.
It is my pleasure to congratulate, first of all, I would like to address our guests.
The audience listened with great interest to Professor Ona Rakauskienė, from the Faculty of Economics of Vilnius Mykolas Romeris University and Director of the Institute of Equal Opportunities and Cohesion Economics, who presented a detailed picture of the economic situation of Lithuanian women in the context of the crisis. Mrs. Teresa Correa de la Cerda, the president of EWMD International Network and European Center for Women and Technology, gave an impressive speech, Female Leadership in Europe, a Driver for Change.
If we are not going to do that now, then when will we? And this is the main point here.
Project partners from Bergen, Mrs. Lilian Hoivang Andreasen, General Director of consultancy company en2 Utvikling Company, and Mrs. Kjersti Haukeland, Chairwoman of NGO Towards New Goals and Business Development Manager for Capgemini Norway, concentrated on women's leadership in Norway.
I wish you every other year when the groups are reorganizing and once formed.
Mrs. Alison O'Sullivan, owner of the company A Way for Women in New Jersey, brought much liveliness to her speech, The Evolving Role of American Women from Early Activism to Emerging Leadership.
American women represent collectively an important trend. It seems clear to most pundits that the trend will continue.
Mr. Steinar Langbach, gender equality expert from Sweden, talked about country's economic development and gender equality correlation.
Influence and change the situation. But they also formed their own thing.
The audience actively took part during the lively panel discussions which were held after lunch.
Just 2 weeks. Проєкти було доки інвестувати невеличкі
Maternity leave that is reserved for the father is 93%. And the father has
Eventually, the concluding recommendations to the governmental authorities were announced as a summary of discussions and the explorative study. Informal networking continued in a friendly, relaxing atmosphere during the dinner. Participants enjoyed the performance of a Renaissance music and dance theatre, shared contacts, and seemed to make plans for the future. As a last but not least step in the project, a visit was paid to one of the ministries in July, and the above-mentioned recommendations were presented to Mrs. Kirma Kondratas, Vice Minister of Social Security and Labor of the Republic of Lithuania. We also took the opportunity to mix with employees of the Social Security and Labor Ministry who were in charge of contact coordination and activities performed by non-governmental organizations. Eventually, the major article, What It Determines Women's Career, was published in the main Lithuanian daily newspaper Lietuvos Rytas as the final touch of the project, one more time highlighting women's problems in society and giving wide publicity to the international EWMD organization in general. We understand that society should avoid wasting resources, both financial and human. Also, we think that empowering women, those who already have the proper background and skills to be leaders, would help our economy to get back to track and advance further in a more efficient way. If we don't attempt changing the situation right now, so when will we? Teresa Correa de la Cerda, the president of EWMD International Network, concluded her conference speech. We thank our project partners, European Economic Area and Norwegian Grants, European Women Management Development International, whose approval and financial support made this project possible.